Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette, and I am, as always, your very grateful host. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for the likes, the messages, everything. I start this podcast this way all the time. I know you guys are like tired of it and you're sick of hearing me say thank you. But without all of you sharing and listening and downloading and everything else, if you're not there, I'm not here. So I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. You have kept this movement alive and you've grown it to where we're doing thousands of downloads and we're in over 40 countries. We could not do that without every single one of you. So thank you for your support. We have an awesome guest on here today who's honestly could talk about probably a million things. I don't think, 45 minutes to an hour is enough to talk to this man today, but we're going to do what we can. I may have to have him on, and I probably have to have him on one of my other podcasts too, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So just slow down, back up, everybody. All right. You guys, you all know what time it is. We got to pay a couple of bills before we bring this gentleman on here. And if you're a friend of the program, and I know you are, you know what's coming next. Sip of our preferred beverage. You guys all know what it is at Freedom Hill Coffee. At Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Look them up. You guys love it. I love it. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. They brew a mean bean. It's a mean cup of Joe. And they do all the right things for all the right reasons. They support veterans, which is another reason why we support them. And you guys got to look them up. Look them up at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Tell them Power of Man sent you. You will not be sorry. Let's get one more of these in. There we go. Because I got to tell you, up here in northern Indiana, it is freezing. It is absolutely freezing. We got 3 feet of snow on the ground. It's nuts. And loving every minute of it. So, you guys, we have a great guest today. Army veteran, award-winning author, podcaster, motivational speaker, and resilience advocate, which I'm going to let him explain to you guys. Please welcome to the show, Rich LaMonica. Rich, how you doing, man?
All right, Rory. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on the Power of Man podcast. I know it took us a little while, hitting and missing a couple times, but we're here. We got it.
You got it, man. And it was a labor of love too. It was like this email's not working, that's not happening. I had like 8 glitches just trying to get you signed up, man. It was awful, and I apologize for all that. I'm glad you stuck through and came on the show.
Being on the other side of the mic, I understand 100% the glitch system. So I'm on it.
Right. Everything that's supposed to work and doesn't.
Yes.
All right. So, Rich, I know that we're going to get into a lot of this stuff, but first, just let everybody know, who is Rich? What are you about? And, why are you on the show today? What's going on?
Awesome. Thanks, Rory. Again, Power of Man podcast audience. Thanks for listening to me on this today. And I am Rich LaMonica, as Rory said. I was born and raised in New Jersey. Two brothers, one sister. We grew up in a railroad apartment in Jersey City, New Jersey. In 1993, I finally followed my dream and joined the Army and spent 22 years in the Army, spending a lot of trips in the South and Midwest, in Kansas, in Korea, to other beautiful places, Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places around the world for global war and terrorism. I retired in 2015, June, just after my daughter graduated high school. So it was all kind of a plan to stay in until she graduated high school and then push her off to college, let her use the GI Bill. But then I spent 1 year trying to find out what to do with my hands again. And it was a rough transition right there. And that's where I learned my resilience and how to be resilient in life and as well as in the challenge of getting that next job, that next focus. So for 365 days, I didn't find a job, but exactly 365 days later, I started working for a veteran nonprofit where I stayed for 2 years and thought I liked it, but it was kind of ruining my soul. And I got a job with one of my former first sergeants called me and said, "You want to work here?" I said, "Yes." And I've been doing that since 2018, right here on Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So you find that purpose in life and you keep moving forward. And since then, as you said, I started a podcast, wrote 2 books, and now I'm pursuing my PhD in Homeland Security.
I mean, just right there, there's so much to unpack. We're gonna pick one thread, pull on it, and we'll come back to the rest because you have a ton going on, brother. One thing people don't have to tell you to do is get moving and get stuff going because you've got it all happening.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. Now I know that I deal with a lot of veterans. I talk to a lot of these guys. We have a lot to listen to the show, and I'm very grateful to these guys and to you for everything you guys have all done. I also have come to know a lot of these guys on a personal level, and I know that the transition from soldier to civilian is never easy and is always some sort of a story, a journey, that type of thing. And it seems as though that may be is that where the resilience advocate came in? You're nodding your head.
Yes,
Let
and
everybody know what
that's where
that is. Yeah, go for it.
I kind of learned that I was resilient during that time, in that 365 days. And like you said, the transition from military or from anything in life to something new is hard. And I thought I had it mapped out, and I thought I had this awesome plan, and I would fall into a job like everyone else in my career field did. The problem was all those people that fell into those jobs were still in those jobs. So the job market was kind of compressed at the time when I got out, and
Mm.
plus you had global war on terrorism going at that time for 14 years or so at that point. So a lot of people got out and were in those jobs, and they were still young, so they were going to stay in those jobs for a while. So there was nothing really available. So I learned in that point that I fell down. My confidence crashed, everything crashed, and I was just sitting home on the couch with my dogs drinking, basically filling out applications and saying, "Woe is me, woe is me," until my wife said, "You got to get out of the house," because she was tired of me being home now because I wasn't home for 22 years. I
Yeah.
was never home this long. And so I had to learn that I was knocked down. Yeah, I was punched in the gut and my confidence was down, but now I had to get back up and be resilient and be the person I was X months ago at that time and find my purpose, find that way in life. And I finally found it, and it was to help others find their purpose and be resilient at the same time. So being an advocate for resilience is showing them that no matter how many times you get punched, you got to get back up. You can't keep that woe is me attitude. You got to say, yeah, all right, I'm down right now, but tomorrow I'm going to be back up. And I don't know if you've seen on our show, Stacking Victories is on there. I think it's in my bio.
Hmm.
Stack victories each day. Learn to count the good things. Every day you're going to have a failure. Like me and you had failures getting the show together. The glitch got us. It punched us both in the gut, but we both kept pursuing and we kept going forward. So even though that glitch was a problem, we found ways to make those good things. So if today on St. Patrick's Day I have 17 wins, tomorrow I want 18 wins. Stack those victories daily and be a resilience advocate. I advocate for everyone to have that purpose in life where they do great things. But even if it's a little win, for me, for us older guys, getting out of bed every morning is a victory. That's one every morning for me is
Right.
a win. Getting out of bed. For you, I know that coffee, that Freedom Hill coffee, that's a victory too. You get that Freedom Hill coffee in you.
Yeah.
So count those victories and just learn from the mistake, but keep moving forward.
Love that. Absolutely love it. I was curious when you hear resilience advocate, you get an idea based on what the words mean. But I was wondering if that's where that came to you. How much did that have to do with the writing of your books? Did any of that coincide together in terms of realizing the resilience, overcoming that, becoming the advocate, and the book? Because the book is 13 Step Guide to Success. So I'm just curious how that plays in.
So the 13-step guide to success right here.
There it is.
This was something I toyed with. I was just messing around on Facebook during the wonderful COVID year, the first year of COVID. So each month I would write, you made it to this level of Jumanji. Now you must conquer these demons because every month they made up some new thing that was going on, and you had to battle it. So every month I do that. Then in
Yeah.
December I put out these are the 13 levels you made it through. Here's your next level. My daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, why don't you just write a book about the 13 steps?" So I did, and she was my editor. So the 13-step guide to success is just how to be a better human, and not to be a millionaire or anything like be a better businessman, be a better human. Get out there, get outside your comfort zone, look at people in the face. Don't keep looking down at your phone. Look those 3 inches up and say hello to somebody. You may make their day. Grow your circle, grow your community, and maybe we all can get along someday.
Nice. So that came from COVID. I mean, that's got it. Okay. All right. The pieces are all coming together for me right now. I'm going,
Yeah,
okay, I got you. Now you wrote another book. The first one is a self-help book. It's nonfiction.
right.
It's you. The second one you wrote is called Out of Darkness, and that's a fictional book.
Yes.
Um, when did that come out in relation to the first one, and what led you to that project?
So out of the darkness, right here.
There it is.
This came out September 11th, 2023.
Okay.
September 11th is just the meaning of the day. That's why it came out.
Uh,
And it was actually started writing parts of that book way before 13 steps. I just kept writing and stopping, writing and stopping, writing and stopping. And then once I did the 13 step guide to success, I said, I got to get out of my own way and write this book. So I wrote that book and again had my daughter, the editor, destroy me on it and help me out and give me a lot of love and encouragement and help me to get it out. But that book is about a soldier's journey. So it's each character in the book is a combination of people I served with. So I don't use any names except for one. One person in that book is actually a person. But the star of the show is not me. People think it's me. It's not me at all. It's people I served with. And he's sitting on top of a hill and he smells the war, smells war around him, and he thinks, "How did I get here?" So he kind of does goes to Wayback Machine, goes through that journey of how they got to that hill, and then it comes back full circle when they come home, and you start losing dudes and dudettes due to uh, not having that adrenaline no more, over drinking, and of course suicide comes in.
mm, wow, that's some tough subject matter you're covering right there.
Yes, it comes from the heart, having seen losing brothers and sisters and seeing everyone go down those wild paths.
Is that difficult for you to write?
Some parts were knowing that I lost some dudes and having to write things based on my memories of them and put them in there, just basically paying homage to them, but also clearing some of the air of things that they did in life. So it was awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool. So in a way, it's a tribute to some of these guys.
Yes.
Love that. Love that. Looking forward to reading that, man. And I also love your technique. If you want some brutal, cold, hard, just honest review, ask your kid.
Yes. Oh, yes. And she loves to give it.
There you go. That's fantastic. Okay, now I talked to a lot of guys who have served, a few tours, 4 years, 6 years, things like this. Um, you were in a long time, 22 years, is that right?
Yes, I was.
So, I mean, if you're in 22 years, it's a life. It's you're loving what you're doing because you don't do it for 22 years unless it's just a part of your soul. Um, what did 22 years in the service do for you, man? What did it prepare you for? I mean, what was that like?
Well, I tell people the day I retired, I walked across the stage, I shook the general's hand. He said, "What are you going to do next?" I said, "Now I got to get a grown up job." I said, "What?" I said, "I've been playing soldier, playing GI Joe for 22 years." And that's what a lot of skill went into it at that point. You play GI Joe as a kid, you going into the woods playing army, and it's going to be the same, right? No, it's not. It's not the same. You go in, it's a tough job, and it's not made for everyone. And you know the people that aren't going to make it, and they do that one tour, and I applaud them for raising the right hand and coming in,
Mhm.
but it's not for everyone. And like you said, 22 years is it's a lifetime, and the reason I did 22 years was to stay until my daughter graduated high school. So when she graduated high school, I was able to say, see you later, hang up them boots, and then start my next chapter of life. But you learn a lot of leadership. You learn to be resilient without knowing it. You learn how to motivate people. You learn a mindset that you can't get defeated. And that's that challenge accepted stuff that's in my bio as well. If you tell me that I can't do something, I'm going to do it. And it sometimes it hurts me a lot when you challenge me and I try to do it. So, like I said earlier, I am older now, so things do hurt a lot more when you get hurt, but you have to keep moving forward.
It's about the attitude, though.
Yes, if you're happy going into it, that's all that matters.
That's right. So, in 22 years, I know that you said that you were participating in the global war on terrorism. Is there anything you can tell us? I know a lot of the stuff is stuff you can't talk about, and a lot of it is classified and things like that. Um, is there anything you want to talk about that you can talk about, just to give everybody an idea of what a 22-year military career looks like from the inside?
So a lot of people think when we started the war started in 2001, and a lot of people think when you were in at that time you were gone all the time. If you ask my wife, I was gone more before 9/11 training. I was gone all the time. I'd be good. One day I went to work at Fort Campbell in the 90s, and I didn't come home for 30 days.
Oh,
Had no
wow.
idea this was going to happen. We got alerted, and then we just went to the field for 30 days. I came back, and we at that time our daughter I think was maybe 6 months. I came back, and she was so very happy to see me. Got a lot of good words of encouragement, and having a strong wife that I have and had then too. And we've been married 30 years now, and she stayed with me through all that gone stuff like that. And that's a testament to her and her upbringing to be strong and hard as nails on me. And then 9/11 happened. I was already deployed when 9/11 happened. I was on the border of Iraq in Kuwait when 9/11 happened. I didn't believe it happened. Coming from New Jersey, out my back window, I can see the Twin Towers. And when they said the Twin Towers were hit, I was like, it's a lie. It's a lie. It's fake. The lieutenant's joking again. So I had sent one of my young sergeants to the CNN tent. That's what we called it, news tent.
Hmm.
And he went in there, came back, said, "Sergeant, stop yelling at the lieutenant. It's real." It's, oh man. So, so we learned right there. We went from basically just a regular deployment to deter Iraq to now we're in combat. We're in a combat deployment. We lost our ice cream privileges. Everything got locked down. It was a rough time there to not be able to communicate back home, of course, and then also not knowing that we had no idea to know what was going on because communication wasn't as great back in 2001 as it is now.
Sure.
And went home, came back. About a 2 year break, 2003, 2004. I was in Iraq in Ramadi, the hotbed of the insurgency. And it was a very kinetic deployment. Worked with the 2-4 Marines there. I was with Big Red One. We fell under uh, General Jim Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis. He was the commander of the First Mordiv. He was our commander. Great man, great leader. I learned a lot under his tutelage there, and we fought a lot in Ramadi, in the outskirts of Ramadi at that time. And in almost every book you see from the Iraq War, somehow winds up in Ramadi. American Sniper, Echo in Ramadi. A lot of them come Joker in Ramadi. All winds up in Ramadi because it was a hotbed for the insurgency.
Wow.
So we were there through the I guess the simmering portion of it, and then it got really bad as the years went on. Then I wound up in positions where I didn't go to war for a little while. Then 2010, I came back to Fort Campbell from Korea. I was here for 60 days, and they sent me to Afghanistan to meet my platoon, who had already been there for a few months. And that's where the Misfits come from. That platoon was the Misfits, and it was basically the island of misfit toys. Soldiers from every part of the battalion that no one really wanted or didn't know what to do with, they gave to me for force protection and QRF. So we built the fob. We built Fob Wilson in Kandahar, and we secured it. Went from a lot of attacks to zero attacks. And in that case, we lost Sergeant Michael Beckerman on December 31st, 2010. He was killed in an improvised explosive device attack. Him and Lieutenant walked in, and one or both of them stepped on it or triggered the device. Sergeant Beckerman was killed. The lieutenant was a triple amputee. Lived though,
Hmm.
but he of course has to live with that, seeing one guy die. And from there, I came home for less than a year. In 2011, 2012, I was right back in Afghanistan as an advisor. And I went in negative. I went in 100% negative, knowing it was my fourth combat deployment. I knew that all my friends who died were their third or fourth. I was testing fate. So I was like negative Nancy going into it. And I just kept telling people, yeah, this is it. I won't see you again. Have a good career. And one of my young sergeants, Sergeant Chantel Cumming at the time, she said, "Sergeant, get your head out of your ass. This is not you." And that stayed in my head until I got over there, and I was on my combat outpost for a couple of days, and we went on a patrol. We got ambushed, came back. They just followed us along the mountain back to our cop, and they started launching mortars. They did one volley, and my medic was brand new, first time in combat. He was so proud. He said, "Hey, Sergeant, I want to talk to you." It's all right. Took him outside. "I saved this guy." So I was so proud of you. I hit him on the shoulder, and a mortar hit behind me and went through the back of my left leg out the front. And right there is when I woke up. That mortar woke me up and put me back into the right mindset. It wasn't me seeing him doing great things, it was the mortar. And I got the evac, I had surgery, and I asked to go right back. And they sent me right back, and I made it through the rest of that combat tour. And you know, hindsight 2020, I probably should have got further evac and more work on my knee, but knucklehead and challenge accepted. I stayed forward and I worked it out, and I worked the problem for the next 8 months.
See, that's fascinating just right there. That, I mean, that's the type of thing that would make most guys say, okay, I'm done. You know, and you were like, no, it actually put my head back where it should have been. And I was like, well, you didn't get me this time. I'm going back for more, you know?
Right.
How do you make that shift mentally?
It was that voice of Chantel in my head, Sergeant Cumming in my head, telling me to get my head basically back out of my buttocks and move forward. And I didn't want to disappoint my team because I was team sergeant at the time. I had to make sure they all come home and they had families at home. And we were going to win the fight. We were going to win the fight we were in, no matter what politics say at the top. We were winning that fight there.
Wow. Well, you said something else a little while ago, that, I mean, as impressive as a 22-year military career is, 30-year marriage is more rare, I think. So congratulations on that. And I love that you're, shouting at your wife, talking about how great she is.
She's amazing. She's a school teacher, so she's actually, mentoring sixth graders now. So uh, molding the next generation to do great things in life.
I mean, I know this isn't like, part of the bio, but, what's the secret to staying with somebody for 30 years, especially when you're, serving?
And it's a rarity. If you combine the two of them together, there's not many guys or gals I served with that stayed with one person.
Hmm.
I made staff sergeant, which is E6 in the Army. I was asked, what marriage are you on? I said, I'm on my first. I said, you're lying. And everyone around me was on two or three. I said, why would you do it? Why would you do it again? And I said, if the first one don't work, that's it for me. And we just keep, I think the thing that helped us was communication. Even though I was gone a lot when I came home, it was always that newness and communicating and understanding that she's in charge at the house and not trying to take over. Every time I came home, I just knew to fall in line, like just like my daughter did, fall in line with her and do what you're supposed to do and take care of the dogs, cook the meals, and knew when I'd be called to leave again. So I didn't want to come in like that seagull and tear things up around the house, then leave. So I'd come in, just listen to her. My uncle told me when I got married, he said sometimes they're going to talk a lot and just just make like you're listening, and then you'll know when they're starting to slow down. Then you start listening, unmute them. They're going to ask you, what I just say? You say what they said at the end, and they'll go again. Don't worry, they'll keep talking. And I used that mentality for a long time.
Man, you were doing so good till right there. Now, if your wife hears this, it's going to be like, man, what happened to Rich? I was
Yeah,
talking to him one day. I don't know. I was supposed to. I emailed him. Now I have no idea where he
he's
is.
gone.
Oh man, that's funny. Um, Holy cow, man! Now you mentioned very casually as you were talking about some of the things that you went through that this is where the Misfits came from. So this was when you had a whole bunch of different guys from a bunch of different units, kind of all coming together. Tell me a little more about that, and then how the Misfits came from and what that led to, because that's your podcast.
Right. So the podcast Misfit Nation's behind me here. The platoon was called the Misfits because they all came from different places and they felt like they were the island of misfit toys, just like in the Christmas show.
Yeah.
And I had cooks, I had mechanics, I had MPs, I had chemical soldiers, I, I had intel guys in my platoon. It was just a hodgepodge of people put together in Kandahar, Afghanistan during the surge in 2010 and 11, where with General Petraeus leading that surge. And we bonded. We were pretty tight. And then when Sergeant Beckerman was killed on December 31st, it just made us all become even tighter. And when that happened, I knew I had to lead from the top and not show any emotions and try to keep them straight and narrow, on the straight and narrow, so they wouldn't wind up on CNN, and I can bring them all home. So April, we came home, and in the Army, you PCS pretty rapidly. A lot of them did PCS right away, but we kept in touch. And thanks to social media, that's one good thing about social media. You can stay in touch with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I started coming up with the idea for the show when I had about 8 hours left on my week that weren't accounted for after I finished my master's degree. I said, I got to do something. If Joe Rogan can do a podcast, he's a comedian, I can do one. So, but it's not 8 hours. It's not 8 hours. It's like 30 hours a week at least.
Oh yeah.
And,
It's there's so much behind the scenes nobody knows.
and no one has a clue what happens after me and you cleared off here. But
Right.
I said, I can do that. There's no way that can be that hard. And I asked them, I said, do you mind if I call it the Misfit Nation? And they said, hell yeah, do it. And so that's where it was born.
That's fantastic. Now, how long you been doing Misfit Nation?
Since January of 21. So right after the book was published, same
Awesome.
time period.
So boom, 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 keep on going. Got it. So it's been out for 4 years ish. How many episodes you guys have? I know there's more than a few.
It's 487, I believe, right now. I think we'll record our 500th here in about 2 weeks.
Wow. Congratulations. Those numbers are astronomical. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Man.
Actually, done a lot in Indiana. I've recorded a bunch in Indiana because I go up there for work a lot. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I love it here. So I mean, right now it's a little chilly,
Yeah.
but
It was cold when I was there a few weeks ago.
yeah, I'm sure. Whereabouts in Indiana you floating around?
By Camp Atterbury, so Columbus, Seymour, that
Yeah,
area.
sure. Down south, more South Indiana. Yeah. Yeah, my son lives down in Indianapolis, my youngest, and so
Okay.
it's
About an hour north of it.
yep, exactly. But it's not usually as bad down there as it is up here.
Oh,
I'm so close to the northern border, you can throw a rock from my yard into Michigan,
oh wow.
and yeah, so we're right on the line. It's a little chilly up in this way, but no, I love what you're doing. No, you've gone through all this stuff, and then it doesn't get any more boring with what you're working on now.
All right.
I mean, current pursuits are enough to blow your mind. What is Rich LaMonica up to right now, and where are you heading, brother?
Well, right now I am pursuing my PhD from Liberty University in Homeland Security. Right now I'm in the everything but dissertation is complete now, so all the studies are done. Now it's just doing the individual research on. I'm doing interviews with people on my topic, which is the Internet of Things, and so that's a pretty good workload right now for that. I'm working on my follow up to Out of the Darkness called Forged in Resilience. That's about halfway done right now, and of course, keep pushing the Misfit Nation and the Tuesday Crew.
Nice, very nice. What do you do when you get a degree in Homeland Security?
For me, I want to either be a consultant to DHS or, I guess, an adjunct professor in it, so I can teach from, I guess, the layman's perspective. I'm not an academic, but if you talk to me, I'm not the academic type. I was even told by one of my last professors at Georgetown to stop here, stop at masters. So I took that as a challenge, and that's why I'm in a PhD program now. So, so I'll be, I guess, the voice of common sense, the voice from the field, talking as a professor.
So again, you just said challenge accepted. Get out of my way.
Yeah, I'll do
I got
it.
stuff to do.
And here I
Right
am.
on. Let me circle around back to the podcast. But you guys have been around for a while. You've got a lot of episodes. You've won some awards. It looked like too.
Yeah, I got the military podcast of the year and then the 40 under 40 in the podcast magazine. I got that as well.
Nice. That's really awesome. That's fantastic. How many military podcasts are there? I know there's a bunch. So I
There's a
just was
lot.
curious.
There's a ton of them now, and there's a lot, and there's different categories. So mine came in the social cultural category.
Hmm.
So there's others that just deal with, I guess, mental health, straight mental health, and then there's others that deal with nonprofits. Have a good friend, David Willis. He does home front sit rep. His deals with all the nonprofit organizations. So he tries to highlight them and try to find the ones that are doing good for the community. He's out of Kentucky as well.
Nice. Really nice. So as you move forward and as you talk about, you get into Homeland Security in some particular fashion, you said you've got another book that's coming out.
Yes,
Um, give me the title again on the book.
forged in resilience.
Forged in Resilience. Okay. That makes sense since you're a resilience advocate. Um, can you give us an idea what that one's going to be about?
So it kind of picks up about a year after Out of the Darkness ends, and it starts with an aid worker in Africa being ambushed, and her convoy gets ambushed, and she winds up being blown out of the vehicle and sees everyone either get captured or killed, and now she's fighting for her life and calls in the actual team from Out of the Darkness that was left and the made up new team to come in and get her. It winds up getting them called in to come get her. So it's a kind of a circle to get them back in there and build a new story within the story.
Nice. So you've got books, you've got podcasts, you've got the degree, you've got the experience. Um, you're a public speaker as well.
Yes, sir.
Nice. What types of things, because I know you have all these things you could talk about, but what types of things do you talk about as a speaker, and what's your goal in that way? It seems like you're out there to really try and help people.
A lot of times they want to know about leadership and mentoring. So if depends on the audience. I've done a lot of high school speeches, and those is usually leadership slash mentoring to try to get them to understand that they do have strengths, even if they don't know that. They have character strengths they can build upon and move forward and find out how they can help each other to become better within the school. And then as they move forward into college and such, or whatever choice they want to make after high school. Like for me, I should have never tried college at first. I wasn't ready. I should have just went straight in the army. But I tried college and I just I played football so I can hit people and not do anything. But I tell them that just like I'm honest with them. I was not ready for college. I was barely ready for high school. And college at that time was not for me. It is now. It was not then. And sometimes you have to learn that. So a lot of it is leadership, mentorship, And then there's some that is pinpoint on that resilience piece. And I talked to them about Sergeant Beckerman and how that taught me to be resilient in combat. And then my 365, my day, 365-day journey.
Nice. So all of this, I mean, I know everything's targeted, at helping guys. Is this about helping veterans? Is this about teaching people who aren't veterans to be resilient? Where's your main focus, your main heart coming through on this?
So with the Misfit Nation, it was started just for veterans to get them
Okay.
to come on the show, get that pressure off their chest, so that they would stay with us a little longer and not become part of that awful
Mm,
stat 22 or
right,
40 day, depending on what you look at.
right.
22 is what the VA recognizes. 44 is closer to truth
Mm,
because they don't recognize drug overdoses, car accidents, or adrenaline related incidents. So if you add all that in there, it comes up to about 44 a day we're losing. And when that number first came out, it was mostly Vietnam veterans that that number encompassed. And if you know, Vietnam veterans had nothing when they came home. They were told just go back to work, and their generation took that as okay, go back to work. I'm good. I can just go right back to work. And due to their fight, we have more care now. Yeah, at first when I got out, there was not a lot of care, but there is care now, and they actually do take care of you. Right before I got on here with you, I was on the phone with the VA, so they actually answered my call today, and they took my call. So I can tell you it is working, and so that's where the Misfit Nation started. It was for veterans, and then they reached back and said, "Hey, brother, we need help with other stuff." And I said, "What is it?" And again, challenge accepted got me again. So I got on Podmatch and said, I need these kind of experts, and bam, bam, bam. And that's how we got so many experts now. Uh, Mental health. They asked me how to get to Hollywood, and I knew a young man, a Navy veteran who got to Hollywood, so he came on and he told his story, how to get music, had musicians come on, how to write a book, lots of authors from around the world, and it just keeps steamrolling that way. And for everything else, I try to separate the veteran from that. So me as a veteran, teach them how to be just better humans and how to be better people in their life, in their business. So it's the show is veteran, mostly veteran focused. Everything else is every person in the world.
Nice. Love that. At what point did you decide I'm going to take all this and I'm going to head towards Homeland?
I started my Homeland Security degree when I was in Afghanistan. When after I got wounded, I started it actually, since I couldn't go on patrol for a while. So I started online courses while I was sending my guys out, and I
Okay.
started my Homeland Security Emergency Management degree there, and I finished that just before I got out of the Army. So I was able to say I got my college degree, and then I started my master's a few years later in disaster and emergency management, and now Homeland Security focus for my PhD.
Nice. Now I get what you want to do when you get there, in terms of maybe teaching, and that sort of thing, or serving, the actual department. Why is that where you want to go next?
Because I believe they need to focus on with the department. They need people that have actually been practitioners to be out there leading, and not just people that have studied how to do it. Go in there. You need someone that's actually been a practitioner in a high risk environment and be able to put boots on the ground at the right place at the right time and strategically place them, not just put things on the news and say stuff.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. That's a fairly strong opinion that's coming out very quietly.
I try to be
I
nice.
like the way you did that. Okay, all right. That's awesome. Now, what are your plans for the podcast and its future? I mean, you've won some awards. You're helping guys. You brought on some experts. Where do you go now with that? I mean, almost 500 episodes for crying out loud.
I like when return guests come on. So Terry M. Brown's a returning guest. She's been on 4 times now. Each year she has a new book come out. And each year she calls me and says, "Come on, come on." Heck yeah, come on. I love talking to you. You're a great human. Come on, we'll talk, we'll chat. So it's like talking to a friend. So return guests are awesome. But I also like to see how many people want to come on. Today I'm talking to I can't say the name of the show yet, but the the executive producer of the show and me talked for about an hour this morning to get the whole cast on the show, and that's going to be a big win for us. And I hope that comes to fruition here within the next couple weeks.
Man, you got some big things going on, brother. I mean,
Yes.
lots, lots. This is great. I just love it. Um, Maybe this is the secret to a happy marriage. You're always busy, so you're not in
Yes.
your wife's way, right?
And I just say yes to her.
I pretend to listen. When she tapers off, I perk up.
Huh? Yeah, I got you. I hear you.
That's just great.
Combat death.
That's great. I have to ask this. I'm a father, empty nester, father of three. I know how tough that was just in terms of time and everything else. Um, how do you manage, the demands of serving, 22 years and the demands of being a father?
Well, I thought I was doing great. I thought I did an awesome job, and I was in a running community in my last few years in the Army, and I met some awesome people that were outside the military. And one started a magazine called the Platform Magazine, and she was looking for articles for her Memorial Day spread, I guess. And I said, my daughter can probably write a good story for you. So she wrote an article called Life as an Army Brat." And when I read the story, that's when I realized how much I hurt my wife and daughter. And that was 2016. So it was after I retired. And one sentence was, I had a dad. I knew I had a dad. I had a picture and I had a card with his voice in it because I recorded a card to him when I was in Iraq to say Merry Christmas and stuff. But he was never around. I knew I had his picture, but he was never here. And that ripped me to shreds just reading that one line. It's a whole thing. And I realized how much I was not there for both of them. And I tried to fix that along the time. And it really wasn't until this year. I'm still drinking a lot back then because try to fight the demons that way. January 26th year of this year, I quit drinking after 40 years. Just cold turkey, quit drinking. I got to really focus on you guys more and stop worrying about that. You guys can fill my cup better than they can. So I did that, and I've been pretty present in both their lives since I retired or since that article. But now I'm hyper focused on them.
I'm sorry that we went there almost. I didn't mean to, rip open that wound, but I appreciate you sharing that. That's raw and honest, man.
No problem. I can send you the article if you want.
I'd love to read that. It's, I think for any parent, until you hear from your kid,
Yeah,
that sort of thing, it's almost like we can't possibly see it. We're doing the best we can as parents, and until they come right out and say, "Hey, this is how I feel about it," you don't really get that in your face kind of
exactly.
review. But it sounds like you guys are working things out. And she's tearing you apart on your book reviews, and
Yes, yes. I got close to her when she published a book right out of high school called The Unexpected, and I was kind of her book tour guy. So since I had nothing else to do, I was free. I took her on her book tour, do her book signings and stuff, and we got really close then. And now every week on Wednesday we go to lunch. She lives on the other side of town with her husband, so
great.
we go to lunch every week on Wednesday, and her choice usually, my wallet, her choice, and it'll never end. So
That's the best way.
really, really. She's
I mean,
finishing her second book now. It's in editing. She'll let me know the title when it comes out, so that'll be good.
that's awesome. So she's an accomplished author, just like Dad.
Yes, she was first. She got it out first. So.
That's amazing. I mean, that really is. So I'm glad you guys have that in common to sit there and kind of go back and forth about. But now, have you got a website where all this stuff is housed or anything like that, or are there different links to get to all your different stuff?
For all my stuff, you can go right to themisfitnation.com
Oh, it's all
and
together there. Okay.
it's everything's on there. You'll have the audio, video about, and then it says store, I think, for books.
All right. And as long as you're, pubbing, her work, well, what about your daughter? Where can you find all her stuff?
Her stuff's on Amazon right now. The Unexpected is the name of the book by Lexi LaMonica.
The Unexpected. And is it Lexie?
Yes.
The Unexpected. All right. We can always throw one of her, links up there. Hey, maybe somebody, goes
Get
and
her.
checks out that book too.
Heck yeah.
And then maybe she can buy lunch.
Yeah. All right.
Good try, right?
28 years, it hasn't happened. So.
Oh my goodness. Wow, Rich, you have so much going on, brother. Um, Tough question to ask, but I feel like I kind of have to. You've lived a full life. Your wife, fantastic, 30-year marriage. Put things back together with your daughter. Good for you. Podcast, books, Homeland Security. I mean, sky's the limit for what you're working on, man. Any regrets?
No, I don't regret anything. I would not change anything. I like to live forward. So learn from the past, live forward better. And that's what we're doing
Love it. And that's exactly the kind of answer I expected from you, to be honest with you. So,
now.
I mean, anybody who lives on challenge accepted isn't going to go, yeah, I regret everything. No. You know what? move forward.
Yeah.
So that's perfect and beautiful. Brother, man, listen, with everything that you have going, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to make sure you put out there? And maybe, another nugget or piece of advice to guys that, you want to leave them with.
I think you've asked everything. And guys, gals, if you're out there, just love the one you're with and keep stacking those victories daily. You are doing great things. Don't let little things get you down.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Podcaster, author, Army vet, 22 years, motivational speaker, resilience advocate, dad, brother. Wow. And like 10 other things I could probably, give you. What a story, and we've barely scratched the surface. Um, Rich, thank you so much for coming on today, man.
Rory, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Gentlemen, the reason that we bring powerful men like this on to the program who do powerful things, who have accomplishments, who overcome their own, demons and their own, setbacks, is because if guys like Rich and I can do it, so can you. And the fact of the matter is you have to understand one thing, and that is that you have value. You're worth it. You're worth the work. You just have to do it, and you just have to believe it. Until next time.